Friday afternoon, a little bit after that, folks. Live downtown Honolulu, Ted Ralston in the Think Tech studios with an incredible panel of guests here and quite a display on our table and some unbelievable business transactions that may or may not occur if we do this successfully here on the show. A lot packed into a short show. I want to welcome on board today Ian Kitajima from Oceanit, right down the street, a frequent flyer on the show.
Thanks.
Ganesh
Arumugam from Oceanit.
Ganesh Arumugam, also from Oceanit, a senior materials engineer, which has some incredible things to show us. And Marty Rogers from Accusey, which is not something accused. That's,
no, absolutely not.
That's the Alaska State UAS test area.
Yeah, at University of Alaska Fairbanks.
At University of Alaska Fairbanks. So we've got incredible group gathering here. What we're missing is the Kolea. The Kolea are the little birds that live here, the little plovers. They're about ready to head back to Alaska.
Okay.
So it's good you came here to show them the way.
Okay.
Anyway, this show, where the drone leads, right now the drone today is leading north to Alaska, up into the Arctic. And the only way it's going to get there is if its surfaces remain clear of ice, operating in the ice environment up there. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, fantastic gathering of people again here. We seem to draw an incredible collection at this show on this subject of UAVs or drones. The word, you have to stick on the script. That's the rule of the game, okay? And don't feel any pressure, and no monologues are permitted. It's part of the rules of the show here. That's how it works.
All right.
Anyway, first I wanted to welcome Marty. Thanks for coming down from Alaska to come here. Alaska and Hawaii, there's a lot of partnerships there that go on and on and on right there, and they're going to go into the future.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the Alaska State function and the University of Alaska leadership in the state FAA test site and how that all comes together and how that all works.
So
in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, the University of Alaska Fairbanks was one of 6 leads for test sites that were awarded a couple of years ago by the Federal Aviation Administration. We're partnered with the state of Oregon and the state of Hawaii. And so Hawaii is a obviously major player from a test and evaluation perspective for unmanned aircraft. We have a lot of connectivity points from a science and a research perspective with Hawaii. And we're in the process now of getting Hawaii stood up from a test and evaluation perspective, identifying ranges and actually conducting operations here in the state.
That's you did it in 29 seconds.
That's awesome.
That's right on the target, man. That's great. And we'll talk about some of those elements of technology and talk about the role of the state test sites in a minute. But Ganesh, you're a first time around the show.
Yeah,
and,
thanks
you're not
for
feeling
having
any pressure, are you?
No pressure. I'm enjoying it.
All right.
Thanks
Tell
for
us a
having
little
me.
about your work in materials research down the way at Oceanit.
So I'm a materials engineer. Work in the S&T department in Oceanit. My primary research focuses on developing new coating technologies and surface modification technologies for different applications like corrosion resistance, anti-fouling, ice phobic surfaces, super hydrophobic surfaces, those kind of applications.
I think everything you said fits in the world of unmanned air vehicles in one way or the other. You're here in the tropics or up in the north and anywhere in between. So that's going to be a big part of the future business of unmanned air systems is making them reliable by making them impervious to the fluids and the ice and such that might otherwise cause them damage. And Ian, you're here on a business venture, I suspect. Since you're business development.
Well, you're actually you're better business development than I am. So you're the one that introduces us to all of these very interesting people, including Marty. So thank you, Ted, for always thinking about the work that we do here at Oceanit.
And what are you going to accomplish on the show today, Ian?
Well, one of the things that we got thanks to you, we got connected to the University of Alaska Fairbanks and the UAV, UAS work they're doing there. And so we had heard that icing was always been an issue, and we had been developing. Ganesh's group has been developing a super kind of anti-icing coating. So we heard when you made that introduction, we said, hey, we'd love to do some coding for you guys. Send over some pieces. So the group So Marty's group sent us some pieces. We just recently coated them this week, and are ready to ship it back to Alaska for testing. So
what
we're
better
really
place
excited.
to think about icing situations than Alaska? You wouldn't
And
necessarily.
Hawaii.
Oh, sure. Good. How about that? Hawaii doing
Hawaii.
anti-icing coatings to support
Or
operations in
Alaska.
Alaska.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a perfect.
Now, what do they have
relationship.
in Tahiti? We probably have something that you can use also, I suspect, Marty. We haven't figured that out yet, but
We'll figure
Is
that
it
out.
suntan lotion or?
maybe that's what it would be. Yeah. So we'll see if this delivery occurs today. If these parts have to be delivered to University
Yes.
of Alaska, you've got to
Yes.
get them there. So the pressure's on to get them delivered. This is the last show of the week. This is the last opportunity to have that delivery here in real time and living
Well, it was
color.
this opportunity. I was actually these pieces were actually packed up, ready to go, ready to be shipped over. And then when you said Marty was here, I was
Unpack
like,
them.
yeah, I was like, oh, I can't unpack these things again. So it was perfect. The timing was perfect. So we're very happy to be able to pass these pieces on to Marty and his team.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
we'll get that done a little bit later in the show. Anyway, if you can think, Marty, as Hawaii comes into the picture here and stands tall and has a high profile in the world of unmanned air systems test and evaluation, what would be your view of the perfect solution to that, the perfect execution of what that might look like?
So the challenge we've got now in unmanned aircraft test and evaluation is really beyond line of sight operations. That's the significant challenge, right? Line of sight is fairly easy to execute. Beyond line of sight, beyond visual line of sight type of operations is quite difficult, but from a sense and avoid tech perspective, and it actually all just comes back to safety. It's 100% about the safety of the integration of unmanned aircraft into the national airspace, and that's actually the reason the 6 test sites actually exist today. So for us in our partnership, really looking in Hawaii for a good location to actually be able to execute beyond line of sight operations out over water in a low air traffic density environment where there's hopefully not a lot of general aviation traffic, a low amount of commercial aviation traffic. To us, we've hit perfection. We've got the perfect weather, we've got a perfect flight location, and we might have to move our operation to Hawaii.
That's not a
If
bad
you can
idea.
help us, so help us out with that, and we're here.
As you bring all that equipment down here, we're going to need a couple of buckets of anti-icing.
That's
and
right, we are.
Anti-corrosion material.
We'll show up.
That'll be necessary as well. So that's interesting. Oh, here we go, some videos. This is, I think, from your operation in
It is.
Alaska, Marty.
Yeah, so this gives you a sense of the type of conditions that we operate in. So we fly basically in all weather conditions. We've flown operations down to minus 34 degrees Fahrenheit. And basically because we do, in addition to typical sort of unmanned aircraft operations in support of pre-commercial work with industry, test and evaluation, science and research, every day is not a beautiful day to fly, and sometimes you end up in conditions that are not necessarily optimal. Also, because unmanned aircraft are ideally suited for those situations that are the dull, dirty, dangerous, and denied, that means that sometimes we're flying, again, when it's not idyllic. And so the work that Oceanit is doing for us from an anti-icing perspective, the work they've been doing is key to our success.
And we can add beyond line of sight to this and take these various examples here of pipeline inspection and bridge inspection and
Yes.
this sort of thing and make them much more extended if we can get beyond line of sight reliability in the systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you're looking at linear infrastructure management or
Just
observation.
here we're looking at a polar bear being
Yes.
identified in the wild. So if we can get some software that can identify and pull that polar bear out of the
Yep.
the picture and generate a table that says, here's all the polar bears I found today.
That's
That sort
right.
of thing would be really useful.
Instead of
as
using
well.
the human eye to
Yes.
try to do it. Because in some cases, one of our partners flew a mission a couple of weeks ago and they collected over 50 billion pixels of data, and the ability to be able to analyze that with some sort of semi-automated system and only use the human eyeball for final quality control purposes would be ideal.
You know, we just had an experience last week. We were doing some work at Bellows Air Force Base in the Waimanalo side of this island. And doing some work with the environmental people there, and realized by standing in one location and flying the UAS over an area where there's an endangered species of bird and get to the area of inspection, we didn't have to get a permit to traipse through and train people as to how to properly transit that area because we just flew over it to the area of interest.
Right,
So
right.
you saved the whole cycle and cost and increased the speed of getting the job done about in the same way. Now, the beyond line of sight thing is really interesting. You know, we didn't spend enough time in the Oceanit place. I guarantee there's a beyond line of sight solution sitting in there somewhere.
We need to get it in front of the
Yes.
Federal Aviation
Right.
Administration.
I think you need to stay here a few more days.
No one's probably believing you're working, actually.
Right. Anybody from Alaska watching, he actually
He
is
is
working.
working.
Right.
He is
We
working.
worked him all day, Wednesday, Thursday, and
Yes,
Friday.
absolutely.
So,
It's been very
if you get
good.
some time off this weekend, that would be time
Well,
well
I
served.
think that trip out to Lanai, right, was very good yesterday, and the potential operations out there. I was very impressed with what I saw. I saw a massive amount of potential in Lanai.
Let's give a shout out to George Purdy, who's kind of the energy
Yeah.
Philippine. Hi, George.
Hi, George. How are you?
And whatever you want to say about that potential. Let us
So I
hear.
think a location that is, again, not a lot of lower population, and Lanai is interesting because there's not a lot of infrastructure on the island except for Lanai City. Then there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of potential there. There's a fairly low amount of commercial traffic in and out, very little general aviation traffic, and a good location to be able to operate out over the water in large areas. So again, a good location for potentially beyond line of sight operations.
That's great. And then beyond line of sight has really interesting connotations here. Over the water, as you suggested, and which Lanai is perfectly placed for. Also on this island and the islands that are high and have large sheer cliffs in them, like Oahu, beyond line of sight may only be 200 yards because you may be over
Right.
a cliff at that point.
Right.
The power company, its lines go over that beyond line of sight point. So working with the power company, we might find the beyond line of sight is really defined very close in.
Yep.
It's just you can't see it. And there's another dimension of this, and that's the drone racing, which is beyond line of sight. Bring that into the picture in a minute here when we get back from our first break.
Hi everybody, I'm IC Davidson. Thanks for watching Think Tech Hawaii. One of the things that we try to do here is promote civic engagement. How do we do that? We put on shows weekdays from 12 to 5 p.m. We let people in our world on Facebook and all the social media. Today I'd like to talk to you about another way that you can engage us here at Think Tech Hawaii and help us promote civic engagement here in Hawaii. What you do is you get on Twitter, you follow us at ThinkTechHI, and during the day, between weekdays between 12 and 5 p.m., you can interact with each of our live shows. What does that mean? You can send us questions, comments, thoughts, experiences, anything. All you have to do is mention us on Twitter. We'll see it here in the studio, and our hosts and guests will address them accordingly. This is a big thing for us. We want to hear from you. The conversation doesn't start here when our show ends. It ends when everybody gets their say. Join us weekdays, 12 to 5 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com. Join in the conversations live with Twitter, at ThinkTechHI. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. See you soon.
Red lights on, folks. We're back here at Ted Ralston at the Think Tech Studios with our excellent guest, Marty Rogers from Accusey in Alaska.
Ganesh
Ganesh
Arumugam.
from right down the street in Oceanit, and good old Ian Kitajima from the same place right down the street. You know, there's more high tech going on in Honolulu these days than you can shake a stick at it. You guys have a lot of it. There's other companies that do too. Just as you brought forward this anti-icing coating useful to the world of UAVs, I can't even imagine what else is available right down here on Bishop Street and Fort Street that has application as well. We've got to generate a come all, bring your stuff party in the street sometime. Close down downtown Honolulu and have a UAS festival in Fort Street.
Be perfect. Yeah.
Figure out
Bring
what-
your marbles and your
Yeah,
UAVs.
bring them all, right. Yeah,
And
that's great.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So we were talking just before the break about the relationship between technology here and operations elsewhere, in the north in particular. Let's see if we can actually pull this delivery off that we've promised everybody's going to happen today. So once again, setting the stage, we have the obligation that Oceanit has taken to provide an anti-icing coating to some UAV components that go on some UAV unmanned air vehicles that Alaska has that are going to be operating up in the north. They're going to be challenged by ice and rain and sleet and such. And the whole idea is to keep that from accumulating, and either accumulating on the airfoil surfaces or even on the sensors and the pitot tubes and this sort of thing. So let's see if that delivery is going to work. You going to be able to deliver that stuff today, Ian, as promised?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was going to let Ganesh kind of
let's
give a
do
little
it.
bit,
Yeah, Ganesh,
a little bit about a
drum roll,
background
please, Zuri.
So this is an anti-icing coating or ice-phobic coating that we normally call. It basically is a thin layer of coating that is applied onto this UAV component. What it does is it's a water repellent surface. And as you can see from the video, it just water, once it hits the surface, forms a bead and then rolls off.
Okay, and just to prove that isn't a fabricated video here, we're going to show the live demonstration in a minute. As soon as it cuts back to our table,
And
there
then
we
it
are.
has the sample.
Okay, here we are. We have water going on to a coated surface for a UAV. It's headed for Alaska.
And he's holding.
And Ian's going to do it. There we go.
Basically,
And we
we use
have water falling right off. The water isn't even sheeting out. It's just simply rolling right off onto the tabletop. Nick, your tabletop's all wet.
Sorry, man.
Okay, she's cutting us off. Folks, we got electronics here. Until we get, what we need to do is we need to get that ice
spray
over
the-
on the electronics.
on the electronics.
And then we'll flood this place and we have no problem at all. We can operate this studio underwater. So you've successfully proven that the water won't stick on the surface and therefore the ice won't form. And so now we have to officially deliver that to Marty here, representing the state of Alaska. So there we go.
Perfect.
We have succeeded here, folks, on Think Tech
So,
Hawaii.
Ian, thank you.
Actually delivering a
And
product.
Ganesh,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you,
you.
gentlemen.
Absolutely,
We have-
thank you
Very,
very
there
much.
You see it right there, folks, in living color,
It's
right here.
heading to Alaska.
Okay, parts on the way, and there's more. There's a whole
Yes,
box
there's a
of these that look
box
just
of
like
these.
it that are going to go up there, and then Marty's going to give us the feedback as to how
Yes.
well it actually works.
So we'll be operating these, and in fact, we're discussing a potential of an aircraft that we will be taking delivery of utilizing this coating on it, a much, much larger aircraft that we will be flying in high latitudes starting this summer. And summer, you can get icing as easily in the summer as you can
Okay.
in the winter.
So we're going to have to get Ganesh a thick coat
Yep,
and some gloves, and because he's going to be
mucklucks.
Bucklucks,
Right.
and probably some snowshoes or something like that.
Yeah, no problem. We've got them in Alaska.
Okay,
We-
you do it right.
The jacket, winter jacket.
We only have a low shirts here, so it's not gonna probably do very good.
So what Ganesh will be doing is ideally going up to service any recoatings needed that are shown by this testing, or by taking care of the Sea Hunter and thinking of pieces there that need attention. Now, it's not just the surfaces such as this. You could also take care of the pitot tubes, the inlet, the inlets to the control system, antennas and such like that. Transparencies over lenses, lens covers, sensors. There's no end of things you can't provide this treatment to that keep them from icing up.
You can apply coating on different kinds of substrate, like as you mentioned.
How about the electronics? This is not the actual UAV we're talking about, but this is one that's kind of a stand-in for our table here. And you can see there's a electronics bay in here. The electronics, a lot of them aren't here, but something like this where you have wiring that can collect moisture. You could treat the wiring
And
as
we
well,
can
couldn't
spray the coating onto the
you just sort of
electronics.
stand back there and spray it. Is that right? Is
It's
that how it works?
non-conductive.
It's a non-conductive coating.
Yeah, we've actually coated some electronic equipment. Actually, I have we actually coated some computer registers, the internals, primarily for corrosion purposes.
Okay.
Oh,
And then
that's just as much, that's just as important
Yeah,
as.
and we took, I think I have like an egg timer that we coated the inside, and I just stuck it in water. So it was like operating for days, like just submerged in water. Yeah, so it'd be really great to
Oh,
do
very
some things,
interesting.
yeah. And then Ganesh and his team actually have done optics as well.
The
On
actual
lenses,
lens of the
the actual
camera, not a
lenses,
cover on the lens,
Yeah,
but the lens.
on telescopes and other things.
So there's a big future here. I guess either Marty and his gang are gonna have to move here, or you guys are gonna have to move to Alaska. Something like that to serve that trade, right?
Yeah, no, we'll figure it out. I think there's great opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw several things when we were at their place today that really, from a unmanned aircraft and a requirements perspective, the image stabilization work that you guys are doing, this type of work, there's other things that we saw that there's absolute potential. And it's very interesting that we came, I travel a lot. I'm at some event every 2 to 3 weeks and in a lot of high-tech centers, and yet to find some of the, a place to meet some of the real-world genuine requirements that we have and we have in our program. And I'm finding them in Honolulu. So which is tremendous.
And just last week, sitting in the same table, we had Jim Williams and Gretchen West.
Yep.
And one of the things we're talking about is that very issue. How do we collect the technology that's available in industry and make it useful and point it in the UAV direction?
Yeah.
Miniaturization, reliability, long life being the factors that matter. And secondly, how do the users, the end state users, the people we saw on your videos here, the geologists and the scientists, or the infrastructure people, how do we get them to stand up tall and state what their what their real important needs are, and then use that to drive requirements are that make these things useful in this environment, just as you do in Alaska.
It's what because of the
exactly
size of the program in Alaska, you know, we end up as not as a clearinghouse, but we'd like to think of ourselves as facilitators. And so we, you know, the phone is ringing on a daily basis, lots of emails coming in about what exactly is real genuine opportunities for the technology, data collection on marine mammals, invasive species, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're able to really pull those in and actually fire them out to various places or make lots of connections with people that are in the industry, and so if to be able to get Hawaii to the point where you have some group that where this is coming into, and then they can shotgun this information out to the right people, would be a significant step forward for the state. Absolutely.
One thing I can say from just the last couple of days of doing some experimentation with the power company is the issue of operating in high winds in close proximity, and when you have the kind of winds we have here and all the topographic turbulence that exists, we have a lot of flight control systems that can't quite accommodate all that. And so you have a lot of moving around, and gimbals are not necessarily the right answer. Gimbals are a mechanical nightmare in a lot of respects. But image stabilization or image correction that can do the job with software, do the heavy lifting in the software, and keep the weight off the airplane, and improve the ability to get a steady signal off an airplane or a quadrotor that's moving around in the wind somewhat would be a really strong value here, especially in Hawaii, where the winds are, we're looking at 20, 25 knot winds all the time. And again, the turbulence on the north or on the windward face of a cliff, and the incredible turbulence on the leeward face, and those are maybe the areas where you have to go and do a search and rescue or something.
Yes.
So having image stabilization that can work in real time so that the screen shows a steady picture even though the sensor is actually moving around would be a really big part of the solution space here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And we'll probably not get the minus 20 degrees requirement that you have up in Alaska, but we can supply the wet tropical environment
right.
set of requirements.
Right.
And so let's talk about that a little bit more. I'm really interested in having a really strong identification of what this state function should be, because it's something that we've not done before, and it's new, and let's just pick that up after our next break.
Okay.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, meeting people we may not have otherwise met, helping us understand and appreciate the good things about Hawaii. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage on the Think Tech Hawaii Digital Network. On Center Stage, every Wednesday at 2 p.m., we talk to artists of all different ilk, playwrights, novelists, poets, singers, sculptors, you name it. We've had all kinds of interesting people on, and we always talk about what they do and how they do it. And what I find most interesting, we talk about why they do what they do, the process of art, what it does for us and our humanity. I hope that you will come and join us, and maybe you'll get inspired to bring out your creative spirit as well. That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock on the Think Tech Hawaii Digital Network.
Ted Ralston with a host of guests here, folks, on our show, Where the Road Leads, Where the Drone Leads, actually, is what we call it this year, here in Think Tech Studios in downtown Honolulu. Our last segment of the show coming up, the last show of the week, last show of the day, and first show where we've ever had a live handoff of a business transaction conducted with the whole public watching.
Thanks, Ted.
With Hawaii technology going to Alaska. Figure that out.
Right.
Okay.
We love it.
And so once again, it was because of the occurrence and the existence of your state FAA test site in Alaska that we can even have this discussion, because otherwise you wouldn't be here, and,
That's right.
we wouldn't be having this discussion. So these test sites are really valuable from lots of perspectives.
Yes.
But I think in the case of Hawaii, most important, bringing to the supply side, the developer side, the technology side, the requirements of how UAS should be operated, should be used, and should be equipped and designed here in Hawaii. How have you done that in Alaska, Marty? How have you taken your experience in Alaska and driven route requirements and pushed them over to the supply side?
So a lot of times, so for us, we have a fairly extensive contractor base that supports our program. We have a lot of partners. So the program's been around for 15 years. So, so we have people, so I think if you think about it in terms of intellectual property, is one good way of looking at it, or developments within the program, we may receive a requirement from a client that is for something that doesn't actually exist today. And so what we'll do is we will either develop that internally with our own engineering team, we'll talk to our partners, and so what you have is a real meshing of the academic and research prowess of the university with our engineering prowess of our contract engineers and in-house engineers. And then once that is completed, if there is some potential for that to actually go out from an intellectual property and commercialization perspective, the university in-house develops through our Office of Intellectual Property and works with the contractors and may devolve that down to them for them to go out and commercially market that.
We could follow that same process here.
Absolutely.
It's not there yet.
Yeah, and each university does it different. It's not necessarily an easy thing. You've got to have the right kind of relationships, and you've got to have some sort of a development intellectual property that actually has commercial potential. And some of the work is kind of a one-off, but once clients actually see the value of the data they're collecting, they come back on a regular basis. So a lot of times when we'll have a client come to us and say, we need a certain type of payload or package, and typically they're describing it as a certain kind of data, right? We're checking a certain plant species, it's an invasive species, and it's a certain kind of sensor. We may actually take on that development and the cost of that inside of the university to be able to retain that intellectual property.
And then you can market it in other areas and get yourself covered that way.
And we can use it for other clients. And so it's not held by that particular client, it's held by the university.
Well, since we have trapped on our table here, we have two guys from Oceanit, and they probably had to shut down the company today because there are two right here. But that brings up another really important point, and that's it's the analytics and the sensor analysis and the forecasting of things that are going to come from this information, the change detection, the other forms of operational intelligence that come out of these sensors that are on these UASs that really matter. The UAS itself, it's
a truck.
It's a truck. It's a sky hook that holds a sensor of some kind.
Right.
And we got to get past that and get to the analytical side. But that's where, again, you guys shine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one particular area. I mean, the image detection, object recognition types of work that we've been doing for the military kind of has culminated into a software product that we call VIPA, or sometimes we call it Streamlens. So it's really I think of it like we've invented the spreadsheet for image processing. So before, when spreadsheets first came out, people didn't know what to do with them until you started actually applying it. So you actually built like spreadsheet applications, and you saw, wow, the power of it. So similarly, we built a tool, and now we're trying to build applications. So we're building all different types of applications. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity to work with the University of Alaska Fairbanks to actually provide a tool like this so they can actually build image detection applications. For example, that you saw the polar bear. So as they're flying these UAVs, they could use our software to actually develop these applications to process and actually count the number of polar bears or red foxes. The thing that a human would do, now a piece of software can actually process that video for them.
Now, we don't want to make Ganesh feel like he's not welcome to the table here just because he's a software guy. He's a hardware and a coding guy. That's still important, because without the coatings on the aircraft, whatever it may be, and without the coatings on the sensor, and without the protection of the internals, we don't have anything.
Right.
So don't feel...
no.
Okay, all right. But if you have ideas in the world of structure and materials, that would be just as important here. For example, we got to get to the point where we have very high reliability and very long life in these systems to make them economically useful. NOAA put out a specification 3 or 4 months ago on RFI. It wants a 5-year life cycle operational life of something like this, anticipating 4 hours a day of operation on board ship, and with nothing more than daily inspection and daily maintenance, which means you can replace the propeller or something like that. But they don't want the basic structure to go away. They don't want the electronics to wear out. They want it just to operate. So that's an incredible challenge to the materials people. And finding out how to put a clock on something and determine when its time criticalness has expired and you have to change it. There's all kinds of material sciences that are going to play out here. And here I am, violating the rules and doing a monologue. But we'll see shortly when the FAA comes out with its what's called FAR 107 regulation set. There will be standards in there that these systems are going to have to conform to. And some of those standards are going to drive back into new materials. So I think that having materials guy here at the table is extremely important.
Yeah.
So Ganesh,
Yeah.
Ganesh and his team actually, a while back, were developing new types of materials, electrospun materials, as well as like paper batteries and other types of systems that, we did it for different applications, but
And we're also looking at some other ways to produce high strength materials using different kinds of approaches, like not the one it's commercially or manufacturing wise it's done, like using laser based approaches to create uniquely high strength materials, other kinds of tools and techniques to increase the durability, the performance, and extending the limits of the material's capabilities.
That's excellent. And having that done in a scientific way such that all the pieces wear out at the same point, and it all goes away at one point, as opposed to having a progressive maintenance would be a really interesting way to look at it as well. Science can do that these days. And another thing I keep coming up with, we all keep coming up with, these things are large, and the shipment of them takes a lot of cubic feet. It doesn't take much weight. So we end up with a really cumbersome shipping situation. If you're going on an emergency deployment to someplace, you got a lot of cubic feet that are going just to carry air around. Something that can be fabricated or manufactured locally through three-dimensional printing, as an example, or inflatable structure that can be rolled up to make as an example, would be really good, because we got to get the cube down on these things as they go forward in deployment. I noticed that because we've been in some deployments, and if you take a lot of cube, you're demanding a lot on the local transportation to carry your stuff around, which could also be used to carry blood and food and such, and so there's a value judgment there. But the smaller we can make these compacted and more easily shipped, would be something to think about too, from a materials perspective, Ganesh. So
Lightweight, ultra strong.
absolutely,
Yeah.
right. So we're talking about the application of technology here in Hawaii to operations in Alaska, which is incredible. We see some pictures here of the very issue that Ganesh, are you feeling any pressure now? That's what you have to deal with, okay?
That's an interesting challenge.
Yeah. Okay. And using the state site as more than just a test site, but also as a center of information flow and a connection to bring the users into the party and give them a voice in what the future looks like. You're going to help us structure that here for Hawaii, right, Marty? But you guys got an excellent example.
Well, it's really good for us. There are so many touch points between the two states that this is actually very beneficial for Alaska to have this relationship with Hawaii, for Hawaii to have its program stood up from from a test and evaluation perspective, and that science and research and pre-commercial operations. This is very beneficial right across the board, and there's lots of opportunity. There's not a finite amount of opportunity that we're trying to divide up into smaller and smaller pieces. Every day, new opportunities come up for the use of the technology that are genuinely value adding to the state.
We have some other organizations here that can help us figure out what that demand function looks like. We just had a meeting earlier today with the National Disaster Preparedness Training Center, NDPTC, and through their network of classes, they'll touch a lot of users,
Yes.
and that is a mechanism of bringing back into us what the requirements are. We have the Pacific Disaster Center, which thinks about the whole Pacific in terms of trends and such, and weather and sea level rise and this sort of thing that are showing potential problems. We have other organizations that are in similar manner, and we have a group called PRIMO that operates once a year. It stands for Pacific Risk Management, Ohana, I think. And they bring together the people who are affected by all these things. So we have yet another way to look at the demand statement, what we need to do. Put all that together, tie it to the model that you created in Alaska that we're now sort of partnership with.
Yes, yeah.
What more can we ask for?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well,
More time to make it happen, but we're out of time.
More trips of us to Alaska. Ganesh, of course, is going to become a resident up there very soon, the way it looks to me.
And Marty's going to buy a place down here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay, now watch out for that one. So we're sending Marty down here, and Ganesh is going to go north,
That's
right?
fine.
Figure that out,
That's
Ganesh.
fine.
Okay. So anyway, we're coming to the end of our time here, but we successfully had the delivery of some important parts. We have Hawaii technology flowing to Alaska, and we're going to make a success out of your more of your Arctic events,
Yep.
and a lot more to follow. So I want to thank you all very much for coming on today. This has been a fantastic continuing ride, and it gets better all the time. It just blows me away how these things connect and
Yeah.
how they actually interoperate and go forward. So,
Thank
Ian
you.
Kitajima from Oceanit, thanks so much.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you
Ganesh,
very
I
much,
won't
Ted.
try your last name. Thanks again for coming up. And get that thick winter coat.
Thank you, Tim,
Marty,
very much.
you need more aloha shirts to move down.
I
to the board.
do. Yes, I
Okay.
do.
And with that, folks, we'll close it for today, and we'll see you next Friday.
Hello, everybody. I'm IC Davidson. Thanks for tuning in to Think Tech Hawaii. One of the things that we do here, or the thing that we do here, is promote civic engagement in Hawaii. What does that mean? We want to talk about things that people want to hear about, and we want you to engage us and be part of that conversation. One of the ways that you can do that is by joining in during our live show via Twitter. How do you do that? Well, you get on the interwebs and get Twitter, get an account, and mention us if you have a question. What you'll do is you tune into our show live, tweet us questions, and our hosts and guests will address them accordingly. It's really easy, it's really fun, and I think that your participation in what we're doing here will help us continue the dialogue on very important issues that we're trying to cover. Sustainability, clean energy, you name it, we're on top of it. We want you to be part of what we're doing, because together we'll be able to make things change. Thank you for watching Think Tech Hawaii, thinktechhawaii.com, weekdays 12 to 5 p.m. That was weird.
Okay, this is Think Tech Hawaii, and it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday is Energy Wednesday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Come and listen to us. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to ask Sharon to tell us more.
Come and see us every Wednesday, as Jay said. And we have people like Jim Albers from HECO here and co-host Ray Starling here every Wednesday. We not only go on Olelo and OC16, but also stream live. So please come visit us, hear about the latest in clean energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here. You got any comment on all this?
As important as energy is in all of our lives today, this is a great forum and a great format to vet those issues. So I encourage everybody to listen in and participate.
Okay, Ray, what do you think for a close?
Well, I think this is the greatest show in the energy world here in Hawaii. You can come here every week, 1 hour, and catch the latest on what's happening and hear from the people who really know what's going on, like Jim Alberts. We appreciate your coming today.
Thank you.
Ray Starling, Sharon Moriwaki, Jim Alberts, and Jay Fidel here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, 4 to 5
Aloha.
p.m. Wednesday. Aloha.
Aloha.